Welcome, dear astrology friends. Welcome to this new video about Jupiter in Gemini. So this video is going to be in general, what is this all about? This big, massive planet in a new sign. And for each and every sign of the 12 signs, what does it mean in particular? You know, in general, a bit of a down to earth, very quick and concise and not too long video, I hope, but where you know, okay, these are the keywords for Jupiter in Gemini, and then in particularly for my sign. So Jupiter is a planet and it stays in a sign almost like a year or so. And it's been in Taurus for last year, and now it's going to shift into Gemini as from around and about the 26th of May. So it's going to stay there approximately a year. So it's around and about the 26th of May of 2024 up until the 4th of June of 2025, when Jupiter enters the sign of Gemini. Now, first of all, what does it mean in general? Now, we all know that Jupiter is quite, especially when you start with the astrology or studying astrology, you think, oh yes, Jupiter is the good guy. I always say Jupiter, which is a drink here in Belgium. But because a Belgian beer, by the way. Is it Belgian beer? No, I don't know. I'm not quite sure. Oh my goodness. This is not important at all. But what I'm trying to say here is this positivity that we all sense when we're talking about Jupiter. It's the planet of optimism. It's the planet of growth. And who doesn't want growth in life? It's the planet of expansion. It's the planet of meaningfulness and purpose. So if we want to know in our horoscope, oh, what is going to be, where do we find a lot of meaning in our life? Where do we find a lot of purpose in life? I mean, it's an important question. It's a very philosophical question. That's what Jupiter is all about. It's a very philosophical, wise planet. And you can look in your chart where Jupiter is positioned. Let's say, for instance, when it's in the third house, or in Gemini, you would say a person who's born with that loves those Gemini kind of things and finds a lot of meaning in doing that or being active around that topic. And of course, Gemini is the planet of communication. So you could say someone with Jupiter in Gemini could find a lot of purpose and meaning in their life by communicating or doing a job that has to do with communication, writing, speaking, being a journalist, for instance. It's a typical kind of Gemini thing, and when it comes to profession. But so Jupiter is that planet that, especially if we find things in life very hard and very meaningless, to look at it where it's situated. So definitely when I come towards the 12 signs, it's important because in that year, between that time of the 26th of May up until the 4th of June next year, we're going to find more meaning in that area of our life anyways. And that is this weather forecast, so to speak, and that opportunity that we all have in our lives. We all have a certain area of our life where we have an opportunity for expansion. I say opportunity because, of course, we have free will and we can decide, no, thank you very much. You might have Jupiter transiting the 7th house, for instance, and you're single. Yes, every astrologer will say to you, hey, there's more opportunity for meeting someone, very significant. But if you don't want that, and if you want to stay home every night and watch Netflix every night, that's fine, right? It's not that the planets are doing anything to you. It's an energy, and we can ride on the energy or not. So we're all going to ride on the Jupiter in Gemini kind of energy. And I really like it these days, this flavor, this airy flavor, because Gemini is an air sign. And it's a quick sign, you know, it's the third house, associated with the third house. Now, I know that in ancient, traditional astrology, Jupiter, they say Jupiter loves it to be in Sagittarius, and its opposite sign, it doesn't like it to be there. You could say, yes, Jupiter has a bit of a problem of being in a sign that is not so, it's a very big planet, so to speak, that wants a lot of expansion. And Gemini is very, you could say, light, quick, kind of tiptoe energy, right? With tiptoe, I mean, it's not going to go into the depth of the matter. It's, it's Gemini. Gemini knows a bit of everything. And that's just what makes Gemini Gemini. And that's not a good thing or a bad thing. It is what it is. But Jupiter in Gemini is an alternative. I call it more a bit an alternative position. So Jupiter loves to be in Sagittarius, but when it's in Gemini, it has to be a little bit different. It has to be a little bit alternative. It has to be, yes, still having a love for philosophy and all of that, but doing it in a kind of a airy way, in a kind of a light-hearted way, so to speak. So I think, you make it what you want to make of it, basically, that Jupiter in Gemini. And I think with Jupiter being a planet of expansion, optimism, falling into that sign of Gemini, it's definitely, and certainly these days, an optimistic energy when it comes to the mind, because Gemini has to do with the mind, and it has to do with the mind that is practical, that wants to learn something, that wants to learn a skill, that wants to learn how to write, how to speak. We are all going to be having access to big expansion. So yes, it is a time for us from the practical Taurus, where Jupiter was, the expansion of that, now the expansion of the more Gemini kind of area. You could say, but Veerle, we already have that expansion in information, communication, and whatnot. Yes, but I think this Jupiter on a bigger scale, because we're talking now on a bigger scale, will have more to do with schools and so on, so that there is novelty, optimism, and a new way and an expansive way of teaching and learning in a very practical manner. So, but also of finding meaning in a good conversation. And it's not, it's a good conversation with people around you. For instance, whilst you're doing a short trip, and whilst you're traveling and sitting in a train, and those conversations can be very worthwhile and can be very uplifting, having that kind of conversation with someone, talking about these things, about this and about that, about life, and going from here to there. Yes, Gemini is a bit scattered energy, but it knows a bit of everything, and it can make a conclusion because of that. Right? So it has its power there for sure. So we are definitely all invited in more confidence around communication, in more, you could say, logical things, not wanting to know the logical stuff and the rational stuff behind something. I think it's also for a critical way of thinking is so important these days, because we always think that, the truth, right? The truth, and the truth, and you don't know the truth, and I know the truth, and so on. You could say with Jupiter in Gemini, there's like many truths. There's many perspectives, as much as people are walking around on this planet. And it's about honoring that, and it's about seeing what you can do with that as well. So definitely a lot about traveling, a lot about philosophy, a lot about exploring that, doing that if you can, in a certain area of your life, seeing purpose in communicating with each other, I think, is the big one. It's seeing purpose in finding an alignment with another person, with another human being on a mental level, right? We are born, which is the ascendant. The second house is we make sure that we're nurtured and that we are getting a roof, that we are nurtured, let's put it that way, that we are feeding ourselves and protecting ourselves, and that we have some things that we have and talents that we can explore. And then the third house is ruled by Mercury and Gemini, which is all about, then we are going to connect with each other by on a mental level with each other. So I think a lot of growth of learning, it doesn't matter how old you are, is definitely on the horizon. A lot of intelligence, or increasing your intelligence, or mastering a certain skill, or being open for a new philosophy and applying it in a very practical way. All these things are very much flavored. So it's also the wise planet falling into a very young sign. So it's like being the wise guy and being very experienced, but giving this knowledge in a very funny way. You know, Gemini is all about fun and all about how humor, a good sense of humor, you know, that is related to Mercury, that is related to wittiness, it is related to how we can make our lives more attractive because of that. So it's definitely finding a lot of curiosity as well. You know, Gemini is definitely the sign of curiosity, and people who have a Gemini rising, for instance, so their appearance, when someone has a Gemini rising, there's also some curiosity that you can see in the face, in the eyes. You know, they are very interested in everything, and it doesn't matter whether it is art, or whether it is how a car is working, or whether it is how a television is working, or whether it is what astrology is all about. They're interested in a bit of everything. And we are invited to do this. We are invited to understand the whole a little bit more, in a way that is more like tiptoeing here and there, so you can have more of a perspective that is more suited for you. Now, when we look at the what is Jupiter doing with other big planets during that period of time, and there's two planets that are playing a huge role in this story of Jupiter in Gemini. Now we know what Jupiter in Gemini is about. But we want to know the aspects that it's going to make with bigger planets. I mean, with further away planets than Jupiter itself. Why? Because it makes a very big point here. And as Jupiter starts entering Gemini, it already starts with a huge positive transit of making a trine to Pluto in Aquarius at 0 to 1 degree. 0 to 2 degrees, we're having this Jupiter trine Pluto, which is amazing. So you could say that what I'm going to talk about in a minute for the 12 signs, the expansion, it's going to be quite a powerful one. Why? Because it's connected to the planet of power. It's connected to the planet of transformation. And a trine energy means it goes easy. It's ready. It's some people call it luck. I would call it like, you know, Pluto is a karmic planet, and also because of what you did before, now you're having the rewards. Jupiter-Pluto combination is amazing. It's an amazing energy. It's the energy of growth together with the energy of how you can transform your life in a good way, in a way that is easy, and in a way that is not disruptive. Because let's be honest, to grow, mostly it's with pain, right? We don't grow if we're sitting in the same job, in the same energy all of the time. We are growing when we're getting uncomfortable, when things are getting a bit of a crisis there. And now with this Jupiter trine Pluto, it is like Jupiter even bigger and more powerful. So there will be also finding meaning, Jupiter, in Pluto, in transforming, in shifting, in doing death and rebirths, so to speak, in doing something completely different. And that gives you a lot of authenticity and power, and again, meaningfulness. So, and when is this going to happen? Directly when Jupiter enters Gemini. So it's particularly that first couple of days. So from the 26th of May, you could say up until like, what am I saying? The 4th of June to 2025? That was not correct. It's the 10th of June. Mea culpa. So Jupiter stays in Gemini from the 26th of May to the 10th of June of 2025. So 26th of May of this year, 2024, up until 10th of June of 2025. Correction. But the flavor of Pluto is going to be particularly the last week of May of 2024 and the first week of June of 2024. So in that pocket of time, there's this massive growth, which is like, you know, finding more meaning in being very authentic. And it's a very soul kind of energy. You know, if you're, for instance, working in a soul wrecking job that you're having, you know, this Jupiter trine Pluto in the 10th house, for instance, can give you a massive shift of a new job that is giving you a lot of power and good vibes to your soul, so to speak. Your soul is going to be super content because you did a shift. And it's not like unsettling, which would be like more with a square or an opposition and so on, which is more difficult energy. Now so that is for the last week of May, the first week of June of this year, 2024. What are the other aspects that Jupiter is making in Gemini? Well, it's having actually 3 times a square to Saturn. Now, is this, well, it is what it is. We could say, you know, you're going to hear a lot of Gemini people who've got the sun in Gemini, people who've got an ascendant in Gemini, people who've got a moon in Gemini, or even another personal planet like Venus in Gemini or Mars. They're going to say, hey, astrologers are talking about Jupiter in my sign, and I'm not feeling it. I feel restricted. And it's for everyone different, but specifically the people who've got planets in Gemini around, let's say, 13 degrees to 18 degrees, they're going to feel a little bit more, you could say, I'm not going to say restriction because that sounds so negative, but in a positive way, applying this energy is balance between growth and between what is already stability. So that is the square that is going on between Jupiter and Saturn. So Saturn will be around about in the midst of Pisces, and it's going to square up to Jupiter. So it's going to slow down that growth. But again, it doesn't do that for annoying you. It does that because it's in nature the best to happen in that particular moment. So for instance, when someone has their sun at 13 degrees of Gemini, they're going to feel at the same time Jupiter on their sun, and they're going to feel the Saturn square as well, which is a normal process of you want to grow, and you're doing that in a surely way, in a steady way. So you keep what is working for you and what is okay for you at the moment, which is Saturn, but you're also expanding. So it's growing in you could say in a consistent way, not in a shortcut, right? So certain people are going to feel that. Certain people with Gemini planets are going to feel that. Others not. It depends on the degrees, right? Which you can find out, of course, if you're doing that in a personal reading. But the 3 times that it's squaring, or the important times that it's going to square up, is the 2 times that it's going to square up is around at about the 19th of August. There it's going to square up around Jupiter 17 degrees in Gemini, squaring Saturn 17 degrees of Pisces. And then around December time, 25th of December of this year, we're going to have the same Jupiter square Saturn, but then at 14 degrees of Gemini versus 14 degrees of Pisces. So you see, it's around that mid degree of Pisces and of Gemini that we're going to have that tension energy between Jupiter wants to grow and Saturn wants to stay where it is. So again, it's not a bad energy or a good energy. It is what it is. Actually, if you see it in a neutral way, it is steady growth, but slow growth. So, and that is what it is in these areas that I just mentioned. So let's get into those 12 signs now. And where is the area of your life where you're going to have all that going on, what I was saying, right? I'm going to do this very quick. I'm not going to even put timestamps on this because it's like just the area of life that I want to say here. Aries, this is in your third house. So you're having definitely here what I was saying in the beginning, you know, Jupiter in the third house is already a bit like Jupiter in Gemini. You have it amplified here. So growth for communication, learning, if you have your own business, growth for social media for sure, positivity around siblings, neighbors, growth there, expansion there, short trips, learning some sort of a skill, which is amazing. Growth on a mental level for sure. For Taurians, this is your money house. This is your Taurus house. So the second house having Jupiter there, and that happens every 12 years, is growth of money, growth of income, growth of, at the same time, your assets, your talents, and also growth of your confidence. So you feeling confident. All the work that you did with the shifts of Uranus in your sign and still happening gives you that confidence, which is a nice thing. So because this Jupiter trines Pluto in your 10th house, there could be also opportunities for a new job, for new work. Geminis, the whole intro was for you. This is you growing, your life path is growing. You can be studying, teaching, learning, traveling, all that juicy stuff that I was talking about in the first house. A great optimism, and Jupiter is with you, so you feel more confident and optimistic than ever. This Pluto trines your 9th house, so go traveling if you can, because it can really open your horizon and your perspective. Cancerians, this is happening behind the scenes. This is in your 12th house. So the 12th house is a hidden house. It's a not conscious house. With Jupiter there, it's almost like you are protected by the ones that in other realms, so to speak, the people that loved ones that passed away. It could be like you feel that you are protected in that way with Jupiter in the 12th house. Now, also what it can mean is how you relax and how you reload your batteries, finding more purpose in that. So, and especially also this Jupiter trines Pluto in your 8th house. So this can also have to do with the value of other people that is emotionally giving you more intimacy and giving you more meaning. But all in all, it's an invitation also for spirituality, for sure. Leos, the 11th house, this is your friendship house. This is the house of positivity in itself, the house of the future, the house of your goals. You could be having more friends, new friends coming in, Jupiterian friends, which having your best interest, who are from abroad or who have that very large perspective on life. So very optimistic, very supportive towards you in a very mental way, in a very communicative kind of way, which is fantastic. When you have your own business, it's a financial house. So it can be the earnings of the work that you do if you have your own business. It's the 2nd house from the 10th house. So it can be growth over there. Networking and so on. If you're doing that, you can have a tremendous growth in that. Now, Pluto trines from the 7th house to that Jupiter in the 11th. So if you're single, for instance, you could meet someone who's very, transforming your life, who's very charismatic and very strong and has that impact on how to be authentic and real and have that knock-on effect for you. Virgos, this is your 10th house. This is work for a lot of you, growth of work. And Pluto is also in the 6th house, also a work house. So this is a double whammy of having lots of transformative energies going on in the workplace. And whether it is an old job that you're quitting for a more expansive job, or whether it is an existing job that you're traveling more, you're teaching more, you're learning more, or you're doing something Jupiterian, maybe publishing, maybe in the sector of communication and of sales. Gemini is also very sales kind of oriented sign. Libras, this is in your ninth house. So what you're going to have, especially if you're having planets between 0 and 3 degrees of Libra, you're going to have what we call in astrology a grand trine. So, and this is in the very inspired houses. This Jupiter is in your ninth house, the house of travel. So it's such a good time for travel. It's a good time for learning something that has to do more on a new universal level. That is a study that connects all the dots. So you could say, so more to do with like philosophy or spirituality, astrology, going to university, getting a master's degree, you know, broadening your horizon by going to a cultural event, by connecting with people from abroad, you know, finding there a lot of meaning in spirituality as well, in God as well. And I say God now, but what you believe in, that is something that is bigger than you, whether it is your higher self or nature or God, if you like, there is a strengthening of that connection. And Pluto in the fifth house is your heart is connected with that as well. So you could be really being very feeling that you're growing on a creative level, you're growing on a love level. So also love, you could meet love here abroad as well. Scorpio, this is in your eighth house. Having Jupiter in the eighth house can mean an inheritance. It can mean a growth of finances that you share with another person. It could mean a tax return. It could mean growth in that area where there is value that you're getting from others, whether it is financial, whether it is emotional, a growth of intimacy, also a growth of the themes that has to do with life and death. So I often see when Jupiter goes into the eighth house that people get pregnant. So there is an expansion and there is a lot of feeling good about themselves, because you get the validation. You're not seeking for it, but you're getting anyways the extra of the validation of other people, which is nice, of course. It's also when you're interested in the occult, when you're interested in all of these things like astrology or tarot or whatever, that has to do with hidden information, you could be learning a lot about that and finding a lot of meaning there as well. So it's really your house that is being activated, which is the eighth house. And because the Pluto is in the fourth house, it gives you that meaning of that emotional stability, so to speak, that emotional comfort that is so strong. Sagittarians, this is your relationships. This is amazing. If you are single, and even if you're not single, you will meet a new person, to say the least one. Could be more, but a new person that is significant for you, for your growth, that is significant for you, for your purpose in life. So your meaning lies in others and in meeting new people or people that you already know, but that function as a sort of a mentor for you. It can also mean in an existing relationship that you're going up a level. Like, for instance, you were dating, now you're going to live together. Or you were married, now you're going to have a child together. I had, when Jupiter was in my seventh house, got my child then. So it's like that extra step in an existing relationship. Or it could mean, even if you are in an existing relationship, it could be some sort of a mentor. It could also mean someone who helps you in growing on a level of how you view life and on your perspective, on how you find meaning in life, so to speak. But definitely, even if you're in the midst of a divorce, having Jupiter in the seventh house shows the astrologer like, okay, they're going to be fine. They're not going to have that fight, divorce. They're going to be agreeable. They're going to be positive towards the future for both of them. So it's a very, very favorable energy. And don't forget, Jupiter is your ruler. So you are there in that seventh house. So collaborate, go connect with other people, because you're going to be so much stronger together than doing your own thing. And so for clients, if you work and you have clients, it could mean more clients, foreign clients, You could be attracting Jupiterian people, people from other countries. It's in Gemini, younger people could appear as well. Wise people. They don't have to be necessarily young, but wise people. Capricorn, it's in your 6th house. So for you, it's absolutely your lifestyle, your work, your health. There could be a time now where you find more meaning there. So for you, definitely with Pluto in your 2nd house, you could be shifting jobs and you're having more income because of that. And quite significant with this Jupiter-Pluto energy, especially around the end of May and the beginning of June. So this is a focus on how to find more meaning in your work, how to find more purpose in your work. So a lot, not all of them, but a lot of Capricorns will shift jobs and will do jobs that find now more clients or more work or more meaningfulness in the things that they do in their day-to-day life. If you're not working, this is your day-to-day life that is becoming more meaningful, because of the certain routines that you're doing that you find a lot of meaning in. It's also your health. You feel like the things that you do for a better health, whether that is mental or physical, it's going to give you really that feeling of expansiveness, that feeling of growth, and that feeling of you find purpose here in taking care of your lifestyle. This is lifestyle as well. Aquarians, this is your 5th house, and this is a very, you could say, Pluto is trining in your 1st house, this energy of Jupiter in your 5th house. So this is a lot about the heart chakra. This is a lot about you opening up on a level of having fun. The 5th house is love. So a lot of you will find love. And what kind of love? Jupiterian love, which is someone who is witty, this Gemini kind of element as well. Witty, who can be a foreigner, who can be someone with a different background, but with a lot of knowledge, with a lot of, you could say, witty energy. And it could also mean a child, and who's having that traits as well, who's got that character of Jupiter. It can also mean growth of your love life in general, right? Of your heart chakra, and that you feel that you enjoy life more because you're doing stuff that you love to do, maybe picking up a hobby that expands your horizons, that maybe you are going to learn how to write a book, for instance, or learning how to perform and on stage, so to speak, or to speak for a lot of people, that kind of stuff. It can also be like your business. Your business is growing, and Jupiter in the 5th can be, especially at the end of May, beginning of June, a growth of your business. But it's definitely do some things that you truly love, and that you, whether it is for relaxing or whether it is for sports, you name it, you can find a lot of enjoyable energy there. Pisceans, last but not least, in your 4th house, this is the growth of your emotional well-being. So for a lot of Pisceans, not all of them, of course, if they want to move, they're going to move towards a home that is probably literally bigger, but that can also mean that they find more purpose in their new home. Or your existing home, you are doing stuff there that you feel that your home is actually a good place to be living in. So there is just more meaning there. But for a lot of you, it's not literally going to be your home. It's going to be your emotions, your emotional setup. There's some Jupiterian energy going on there. And that has to do with being comfortable, being understood by yourself, first and foremost, and also by you having your own best interest and you feeling safe within you. So that means that you can go everywhere because you feel protected, you feel nourished, and you feel emotionally very safe. And also on a mental level, because this is in Gemini. So this is, of course, the fourth house is the lowest point of your horoscope, which is a hidden place, so to speak. So other people are not going to see that, but you will feel it definitely on an emotional level. It's a water house and you're a water sign. So I think, and it's also your ruler, you, Jupiter, being in that fourth house. So a lot of Pisceans will work from home or will do a lot of stuff that considers around the home, like buying, selling homes, and acquiring a home, and a lot of growth there by doing these things and by feeling very secure as well, you could say, on an emotional level. Anyway, this was Jupiter in the 12 signs and also Jupiter in Gemini, explained a little bit better and more. I hope this was helpful for you. Don't forget to subscribe if you like or comment or order a reading. It's all in the description below. Thank you so much and see you next time. Bye-bye.